for it. Hey everybody, this is Take with a Grain of Salt. I'm your really hot and funny and sexy host, Madison Halcomb. I don't even think I've ever said the podcast name in an episode recently, so this is Take with a Grain of Salt. Thank you for choosing to listen. I'm deciding to sit in front of my window today in my living room. So if you're watching the video, enjoy the view you got of my cute little apartment. You hear that? So the drink of the day is matcha, but are we surprised? Are we surprised? I literally think my toxic trait is thinking that I am like a matcha enthusiast. I set up a bunch of different matchas that people have made. I can choose the best one. I don't know why I feel like I'm like a connoisseur for matchas. But anyways, I hope everyone is having a great day. I can say that I'm having a good day, you know? It's 1:30 in the afternoon, and I normally don't really record episodes during this time because normally I'm working. But not today, folks. Not today. And nothing new, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I think that's too much pressure for me to keep with a certain topic. I think I'm just going to start spitballing because I also feel like I have a lot to say. And I kind of just want to chat, kind of talk about how I've been doing, and hopefully it resonates with some of you guys. And yeah, it is beautiful today. I'm looking outside, and there's something about seeing blue skies that really gets you. It really gets you. It feels like anything is possible again. This past weekend, I was on a bachelorette trip, and I just had a really, really good time. First off, I hate how this microphone doesn't have the little thing over it. I lost it. I don't know where it is. Anyways, but this past weekend, went on a trip. We went to the wilderness. Went to the Poconos area. And I've been there a lot in my childhood. So when we went to this specific town, I was like, literally, we have been here before. And it was very nostalgic. And it was really nice. But overall, the weekend was just, I think, everything it needed to be. And it wasn't even putting so much pressure on it to go exactly how it was supposed to go. I just think it provided exactly what it was supposed to provide. For me personally, and I think for the group as well, for the bridal party. Also, it was kind of leading up to it a tad stressful because I was part of the planning process, and you're putting on a whole ass weekend designed to celebrate a beautiful person, and you want them to make sure they feel appreciated and to feel loved. And it can be a little stressful going up, leading up to it. You know, you want to make sure you have everything planned, and we made an itinerary, and I anytime I mention this to anybody, this trip to my friends or something, I just always mention this damn itinerary because I just know I want that, when it comes to my wedding planning, just having some sort of printed out itinerary that you see on Pinterest. And it's just all pretty, and it's cardstock, and it's just, I don't know. It was my favorite. It's honestly it was my favorite part of the decor, I guess, having a little itinerary. And it also made me think about when I get married and how crazy that will be and how excited I am for that moment to come. Can I talk a little bit about my wedding that is non-existent? All I know is I would love to have a full weekend devoted to me and my partner. But and again, this is if I had all the money in the world. If I had a lot of money, I would love to just rent out an Airbnb for the weekend. We have the rehearsal dinner there, and people start trickling in. It's kind of like a welcome party. Like the first night would be like a welcome party. People can stay there. I guess wouldn't be a lot of people. But then the wedding, and then more people would come. We would have the best fucking reception any goddamn person would have ever been to. And then the groom party, the whole wedding party would still stay in this B&B. And then the next morning we would have like a brunch, breakfast. Is this common? Do people do this? People totally do this. I'm going to do that. It just makes me excited to be married one day. I've always wanted to be married, and not for any other reason besides just having a best friend, quote unquote, for life. Shit happens. But just having a best friend to do life with you, that is why I'm so excited to get married. And you don't even there's no need to even if you don't want to do a marriage label, meaning going to the courthouse and getting that shit, it's not that I need, I just need to know we are committed to choose each other every day, and let's celebrate, and let me be front and center for people. I want us to be adored for a day, for a weekend, It's the Leo dream. It really is. So yeah, overall, I just think that this past weekend was really nice. I will say I put a lot of pressure on myself that week upcoming to the weekend, because the week before and a few days before, I guess, I was just depressed. I was really depressed, and I was not feeling my best. It was just dark and ugly. And I noticed I was putting pressure on myself to not feel that way, because I have a bachelorette trip up this upcoming weekend. I need to make sure I'm on my A game and I'm happy, and I truly wanted to be as present as possible. I wanted to not care where my phone was this whole weekend. We're in the woods. The service sucks anyway. And there's people that I don't spend a lot of time with that I want to be able to spend quality time with and have conversation and allow myself to be a people person this weekend, because I am a people person. But when I get into depressive episodes, and I know a lot of people can speak on this as well, I don't want to interact with anyone, and I really would only interact with the people that allow me to kind of vent, and I guess vent about my sadness, right? And I was going into a weekend with people that most people that I wouldn't do that with, right? Luckily, I had literally my best friends there, and it's awesome how that just worked out. Obviously, it was amazing, but there were some people there that I don't spend quality time with at all. So I was putting this pressure to just be the happiest I can be and be the most present, and I noticed that, and I had to really just surrender that, honestly, because it wasn't working. I knew that whether or not I'm going into this weekend feeling shitty or feeling really refreshed, I am going to be practicing presence, and I'm going to make sure that my motherfucking best friend is feeling fucking celebrated, right? So I had to surrender this like pressure on myself. But what I was really thankful for is the morning that I woke up for the day of the trip. I really did, and it was the day after the full moon. I really felt refreshed. I was ready to unplug. I was ready to unplug for the weekend and just get out of my fucking head, because that's where I've been the entire past 2 weeks. And I was just ready to unplug, and I was really excited, and the weekend did exactly what it was supposed to do for me and for everyone, I hope. And I had a really great time. I felt very present and not distracted, and it was just really nice getting to have conversations with people and get to know certain girls that I don't spend a lot of time with. And I feel very fortunate that I was able to go away this weekend, or this past weekend. And I haven't done that in a while. And anytime I'm in the woods or in the mountains, I always feel this weird anxiety going into the mountains, because and that's like a whole other thing, but I used to go so many times in my childhood, like going on retreats, going away for camps or whatever. And I had so much anxiety every single time, because the separation anxiety was sickening for me. So anyways, anytime I would go into the mountains, I would always be like, oh, why do I feel anxious right now? And then I would get there, and I'm the most rotty looking person. Like I was driving home, and I was like, I smell like a trash can mixed with campfire. I also reek of marijuana, because I was just up in the sky basically all weekend. My hair is in mats. I may have ticks all over my body. I don't. But when I get there and I feel like I can just rot and be there, I'm like, damn, I need to do this more often. Or like, damn, should I move out here? And I think coming back, even though it was just a few days, it was like a nice little cleansing for my body. I felt like my inner body took a shower, like took a long ass shower, And also, that full moon the night before, it I don't know if the word help is the word that I want to use, but I think it pushed me to kind of release a lot of my emotions that day and that night. And then that's when I woke up the next morning for the trip, just feeling very like, oh, okay, I kind of feel like a new person today. Oh, so overall, my past weekend was really good. And I really suggest, anyone having an upcoming trip, or they want to plan a trip, just do it. Do it, and do it with the intention that you're going to unplug. It helps. There's something in you that if you intentionally want to just take a few days to like get away from the daily people you see, your daily routines, if you have that intention going into an upcoming trip, or wanting to make a trip, it can work wonders if you really, tap into that. And, it's making me crave these trips more, like planning these trips solo, but also, guys, I don't know. One thing I've been really realizing about myself is, yeah, I like being alone, but I think that's just what was familiar to me. And I know this, but like, even just the past few weeks when I've been really down, I'm like, do I even like being alone right now to process this stuff? Or is it just because it's been so familiar since I was a fucking child to process and feel emotions alone in my room, door closed, because I didn't really have anyone to talk to, right? And this is just switching gears now, but I just realized again over this past weekend how much I actually love being around people. I really do. And I love having conversations with people. And I know I love meeting new people when I feel, comfortable myself, or I don't feel socially anxious. If that's kind of out the window, I'm obsessed with meeting new people and just talking and asking questions. And I don't know, being alone, that's been a huge theme in my day-to-day of 2024. And I knew that. I knew that was going to happen too. Living alone, it really brings out like the dark side of living, like just being in solitude. It brings out the dark side. And where there's dark, there's also light. So I feel the lightness of being a lone wolf a lot of days. But boy, do I feel that dark side as well. And honestly, it's like that shit is just the same coin, different sides. Like if I'm feeling good, if I am in a good mood, then I love being alone. And sometimes, like, I love living alone, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I have no problem with it. But if I am feeling depressed, if it's a week before my period, if I'm going through an episode, then living alone is the scariest thing that I could be in this. Whoa, it could be the scariest situation I could be in. Just give me 1 second. I have to go on my work computer. All right, thank you. Thanks for your patience. Thanks. Oh, Javi. Say hi. Oh, what if you talked into it? That'd be so cute. So, I recently listened to some podcast about people pleasing. So we're going to switch gears yet again. And hold on. So I went ahead and listened back to my episode on people pleasing. And it really comforted me to listen to myself talk about it. But I also wanted to kind of speak on more of it because like I said in my first episode of talking about it, that once you become aware of your people-pleasing tendencies, there's going to be so many decisions, situations, scenarios that you're now going to notice that are now going to be highlighted because you're aware of these patterns, right? So that takes me into this next thing that I wanted to say is that I am really learning that how people pleasing is a manipulative technique. Like it's a manipulative tactic that is I think it was so challenging for me to admit that to myself because I'm like, I'm not manipulative. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that just sounded so malicious to me. Like, I've been manipulated on before in so many different scenarios. And then for me to admit to, like, myself that I use, like, people pleasing is a manipulative technique to kind of get control of the situation was huge to me for me to admit, because I'm like, no, like, I don't do that. Like, I don't have malicious intent behind it. Like, I just want people to be happy. I just want there to be no conflict. But then when I really dug deep into it, and I was like, okay, you got to be self-aware. Like, you are not perfect. It then really woke me up to the fact that my people pleasing is not just this victim mindset that I need to have on it, where I'm the one that's trying to fix everything. I'm the one that's trying to keep the peace, and essentially putting blame on the other person. And in some cases, it's so situational. I totally understand that. But if we're not trying to have this victim complex on it, then it is fully a manipulative technique that I am so guilty of. And I wrote it down somewhere. I wrote like a quote of it down, or maybe I screenshotted it. I'm going to try and find it. It'll be worth it once I bring it up, but I just need to find it. And if not, that's like totally fine, obviously, but it's just going to piss me off that I can't remember it. Okay, I can't find it. Damn it. Hold on, I just need to think about it. Whatever, it's fine. But basically, I'm just like, dear God, it just, it woke me up a bit. How I respond to people in times of, where I feel maybe on edge, can't say no, right? Like, still the same, like, checklist things where I feel not safe, or again, can't say no, or I feel uneasy, I feel anxious. In that moment, I'm like, how can I gain control of this, where I, like I said, don't have conflict, can keep the peace, make them happy, like literally me conspiring my response in order for it to be perceived how I want them to perceive it. And it was just like, damn, like, I'll be honest, like, I guess I even knew I was in the midst of doing this and choosing my words carefully, thinking I'm choosing my words carefully. In reality, I'm just like trying to be my own, the puppet master of it all. I knew how I wanted it to be perceived, for them to read that or hear that, so that they could still perceive me as, oh, let's say it, this like gentle, sensitive person. I don't know, like, it's wild me saying that, because I have such a hard time admitting that, because it's, again, me trying to come across as like the victim mentality side of people pleasing, where I'm hurt, like I'm the one that's trying to save everything. Like, oh, that's such a hard feeling to have, and it is, because it was, and I will come back to that. Like, I'm not disregarding the pain that comes along with people pleasing. But when it's been so conditioned over years and years, from being a child when we didn't even know it, for conforming to like whatever we had to do in order to make our caregivers happy, and then being a teen and doing the same fucking thing in middle school, to, at least for me, to keep our friends happy, to keep our friends from like hating us or giving us the silent treatment or bullying us. And then it's still going up into high school, and then like now it's just part of my conditioned pattern, like as a 22-year-old, that I'm just trying to be in control of every situation and outcome by honestly knowing exactly how I could like warp my responses so that they can perceive me in the way of honestly like just go with the flow. And yeah, I'll do whatever because that will make them happy, or that will make them seem like they're in control perhaps, when I know I am also doing the controlling tactic by knowing how they're going to perceive me. I don't know, it's kind of complex when I like try and explain it. That's just honestly been a big thing for me because honestly, like now anytime I am communicating with someone, and it's not perfect every time, obviously, but even just with close friends, if I'm having a hard time, if I know that I need to say no, or I just don't want to do it, like I'm now more conscious of how I'm responding, whether it's literally just straight up saying no, and that's on them to take it how they want, and not for me to try and control how they perceive me. Because if I don't know, like before, if I used to say no to something, then I was afraid that that the other person would perceive me as, you know, someone that's not down to do it, or not down to do anything in the future, or in that moment is just like someone who's not caring about them because I said no. That's how I always used to view it, you know. So I guess now in this era, if I am saying no confidently, I'm trying to take out this like urge, this habit, or this fear or anxiety that, you know, they're going to view me as this and that. Because ultimately, what is it? It's on them. It's on them for them to take it how they want to take it. I can't control that. I'm working on it, but I can't control that. It's so complex and it's so interesting that it's also like one of those things where it's like, is my frontal lobe just developing? Like, is it just because of that? Like, if anyone's like over 25, whatever the age is, like, if you're listening to this, is that just common knowledge that we're all supposed to eventually understand? And that's another thing. I feel like me being 22, almost 23, I'm like also putting this pressure on myself to like act like a 35-year-old woman. It used to be really intense like a couple years ago. Like when I was 19, 20, I put so much pressure on myself to act like so much older and be so much wiser that it was honestly unhealthy. I don't think it's as, you know, intense now, but having relationships that the other person is older than me, and I have such a honestly intense thing with people of authority over me. Authority meaning it could have been teachers, just honestly, or anyone older than me. I had such this like expectation on myself to come across wiser, smarter, and that's so Virgo rising of me. But yeah, now that I have friendships where some people are significantly older or just a little bit older than me, I get annoyed at myself sometimes for being only 22, that I'm like, I should know this already. You know, if they're like spitting facts on me that I've never really thought of, I'm like, shit, should I have known that? Are they going to think I'm dumb? Damn, it's a whole thing. But circling back to people pleasing, that's just been, I wanted to add to that from my previous episode on people pleasing, because I really did talk about it from a victim mentality perspective, which is also incredibly valid, right? Like, that is valid. Because there are people that take advantage of people pleasers because they're not at that point where they realize that it can be a manipulative tactic for them to keep them safe, to keep me safe. They might not be at that like place, or they might not recognize that as a manipulative tactic because maybe said other person is fully using it to their advantage, you know? So what I did say in my previous episode is completely valid, and I don't want to forget that, because there does hold a lot of pain. It is extremely, extremely exhausting carrying that weight to always be perceived a certain way. And it's also just really interesting. It's interesting because there's some people out there that hate to be perceived, right? Anytime I hear that, I'm like, does that mean you just, like, how, like, what does that mean to them? Because to me, I think I have this weird thing where I need to be perceived in a certain way. And that goes along with literally what I just said of, I like it knowing that I have control of how people see me. And it's something that I'm trying to crack my shell, like undo those layers where it's like, I don't need anyone to see me exactly how I want them to, because there's no right way to do that. I'm never, ever going to achieve that. And it's so exhausting. But does that mean, like, when someone says, I don't like to be perceived, is that kind of the place where I'm trying to get to? And I'm talking out loud to myself right now. Like, is that where I'm trying to honestly heal up to a place where I don't want anyone to, like, I don't want anyone to assume of me a certain way? Is that what I'm working towards? Because right now that's hard, because I have this need for control to be perceived in a certain way. And let's talk about that. Can we talk about that? It's interesting. I want to be perceived in a certain way, but the only way I want to be perceived, that was my mouth, is my authentic self, right? So is that kind of like a little bit ironic saying that? Like, does that not really go hand in hand? Because me trying to control someone how they see me, which is just my wanting to be my authentic self, that doesn't work. And perhaps it's a fear that I try so hard to control how I look to others, because I fear that they're going to see me not as my authentic self. Does that make sense? Because I could say right now, and let me know if you agree, like, I live to be as authentic as I can. I am weird. I'm weird. A lot of people don't see that, though. Only, like, close people do. But I want to be able to, like, be weird and have people notice it. I don't know. I think I'm just talking in circles right now. My mind is kind of going, like, all over the place. I don't know. That's interesting. Like, I've always just wanted to come across as authentic, and that made me try even harder to make people perceive me that way, that it led to, like, not me being authentic in my decision making at all. And maybe that's it. That's tea. That's tea. So that's one thing that I've been working with. Another thing is that, I don't know. Hold on. The idea of letting go. I talk about this a lot, and this seems to be, will always be, a huge theme in my life. But just letting go. And what do I mean by that, Maddie? I think, honestly, in different areas of my life, I struggle, and I have a lot of shadow work when it comes to letting go of certain categories. Like, it's like people, or it's like letting go of the idea of like my purpose, or it's the idea, or it's like letting go, honestly, letting go of like, this excessive need of myself, of like trying to like put so much pressure on myself. There's so many different categories that the theme of just letting go really works through. And sometimes it's like all three, sometimes it's really just specific on one. But I think letting go of people right now is a huge one for me. I'm noticing, I notice a lot of my claws get really fucking deep if it seems like something's going off route, especially when it comes to friendships and just relationships in general. And that's been a huge practice, spiritual practice for me the past couple weeks, of just allowing people to be. Like, allowing people that have their own, just like, that have their own lives, that have their own mind, that have their own weight to carry, to just, like, let them be. And my whole mantra of actions speak louder than words is a huge thing for me. But also for myself as well. Like, again, not putting such this blame on other people if they're not acting how I want them to act towards me. It's also for myself, like looking inward truly. Like, why do I always first want to blame the other person for them being how they are in this like day of their life, and not taking it so personally, and also just then looking at my actions, like just always looking inward, like, what am I doing? Like, are my actions speaking louder than words? Like, is it not just, should I not just go immediately towards that other person? And just overall letting people show you exactly what it is, because that's reality. And a quote that I've really, really liked is, treat your life like a silent movie. I'm telling you, I look at it every single day. And it's always something that I have to think about a little bit for me to, like, get that light bulb, even if it's for a quick second. But it goes along with just letting things happen and actions showing louder than words. Treat your life like a silent movie. Like, what are you showing people? Again, that's so huge. Like, what are you showing people if your life was a silent movie? There was no talking. Like, how am I showing up for people? How is my energy being directed towards the world? And then how are people showing up for you? Like, how are their actions showing you, like, what is important and what is valuable and what is something to let go of fully? Treat your life like a silent movie. Honestly, something about that, it gets me. It gets me. I've been putting a lot of quotes and I've been putting sticky notes honestly everywhere in my house. That shit is what gets me through. Just looking at quotes all the time, I'm like, this is what I need. And this is why I'm so Mercury ruled in my birth chart, because words and quotes, like that shit, like it clicks in my brain. It's just so communication oriented, word oriented. It's just very Mercury ruled, if we're diving into astrology for a second. Yeah, like, can we talk about astrology for a second? We're in Gemini season, so happy Gemini season. I have always liked when it's the season of Gemini because there's so much youthfulness to it. I told this to my friend a couple days ago, but Gemini season reminds me of like a youthful stretch and a pep in my step, and I have to pee. Yeah, it reminds me of a youthful stretch, and when I say youthful stretch, I mean like when you're a kid and you just wake up, and I still do this, or like, but when you were a kid and you just wake up and you have the best stretch of your entire fucking life, and it feels so good. I don't know. It was just such a specific image I had in my mind. But that's what Gemini season is giving. And I always look forward to Gemini season because that's just like summer, warm weather. People are more chatty. People are more like down to say yes. Whereas Taurus season was before, so it was only like a week ago. And you notice like that's during the time of May. People are starting to like come out of hibernation a little, but I've noticed still like it's like coming out of hibernation, I guess. Taurus is very homebody focused, and like yes, the sun is coming out. People are doing more outside things, but honestly, I've noticed people are doing things that were giving pleasure to them. You know, it's such like during Taurus time, it's a good time to like start a new hobby. I started running again in like a month ago, and that was during Taurus season. I started painting more and like listening to music and singing. Like, you just notice a lot of people are doing things for themselves. Like, what's making them feel safe? What's making them feel like super secure? And I think as far as moving into Gemini season, you notice a lot more like community-based things, interactions, wanting to spend time with friends, wanting to literally talk and yap and gossip, and saying yes to things and having discussions, long chat sessions. I don't know. I just noticed that for Gemini season, and it's really exciting. So definitely tap into that. If you notice that you're more like willing to be outside or willing to like bring people over, honestly tap into that. There's a reason why you're feeling that way. And I'm looking forward to it. This is getting really long, and I kind of have to do some stuff, but this was a really good chat. I've honestly recorded a few episodes over the past week, and I've been unsatisfied with every single one because I really feel like I was in my head and I had to speak about certain things, but this one feels like a good one. So thank you for listening. And I really hope you got something from it. I know I yap a lot of my personal life because that's just my way of hopefully connecting to the listener, that you can like grab some sort of something that I said that makes you feel not alone. That's honestly the goal, the mission statement for this podcast, is that I just want another emotional being to feel seen listening to my episodes, because we're all emotional beings. So I want you guys to feel seen, and I hope I do that. Anyways, I could talk more, but I shall not. I heart you guys, and I'm going to be crazy and be like, give me a 5-star rating. Like, give me if you're watching this on YouTube and you're watching my video, smash that like button, comment. I don't fucking know. Honestly, I would really like for this, obviously, I would like for this podcast to reach other people, because there is so much truth that people don't expect to get from listening to other people talk. And I've experienced that firsthand. That's why I wanted to do a podcast, is because I have gained so much perspective, and I feel so seen listening to other people talk about their experiences. And I want to be able to like grow this so other people can hear this and not feel alone. That is my true reasoning for all of this. And also, I want my children to listen to this one day and help them. And I want my 50-year-old self to listen to this one day again and be like, you were so naive, babe. All right, but yeah, if you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. If you're listening to this on any of the streaming platforms, we have Spotify. I think I'm on Apple Music. So if you're listening to this on Apple Music, that's great. Can you give me a rating? Is that a thing? But yeah, I'm pretty sure you can like rate me and stuff. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. Again, this is Take with a Grain of Salt, and I'm really looking forward to what we can accomplish together. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. See you next time. See you later.